Welcome to session 2, and in today's session we're going to start painting. We're going to get everything wet with clear water and then do a lot of charging and get actually a lot of real estate covered. So let's get started.
I don't know if you all have noticed, but every time I do a painting, I do it a little differently. And this is going to be no different. I'm painting this painting on Saunders Waterford. It's about an 8 by 10, and it's going to be of this little fawn. New things. I'm going to use this blue pencil I forgot to put in his back. So that needs to happen right about there. All right, and I think I will use burnt sienna in this painting. And one of the things that we're going to do in this painting as well is this beautiful, soft, wet and wet background. So that'll be a fun thing to learn, is how to do a realistic background that's soft. And this picture just hands that to us. And also the ears are nice and red, so we will play that up. And this beautiful eye is really, really great. So we're really gonna pay some attention to that eye. I'm gonna lighten this eye a little bit in Photoshop so we can see it a little better. And we're gonna have some fun with this one. So let's get started. So you guys often ask, do the background first or do the animal first? And preferably you do both of them kind of together so you can have some melting edges. I think our best chance for some melting edges is along here and some softness in here. This is all going to be a hard edge, I think. Maybe a little bit softer here, but that's a very white highlight on that ear, so that's going to be a pretty hard edge. Maybe in here we can get some hard edges or some soft edges. You want some soft edges on your animal so they don't look like cutouts. So maybe that's where we should start, so we don't forget to do that soft edge. Maybe we should just concentrate on doing this soft edge. All right, so I'm going to pre-moisten what we want to work on. So my clean water jar is off camera, and it's situated very far away from me because if I put it close to me, I forget when I'm painting quickly and I just dip into it. So I put my clean water jar far away from me. It's off camera, and my clean water jar is right here. So I'm just going to get this is my dirty water jar, sorry. My dirty water jar is closest to me, my clean water jar is farther away. But right now they're both clean, so I can use my dirty water jar for my clean water because right now it's clean, but it soon won't be probably. And I'm going to concentrate on painting this part of the background and this part of the neck because this is the soft edge, so that's going to be the quote-unquote difficult edge. And I'm going to take my clear water right up to about here, and here's the edge of his neck because I want this to be, see how light it is? I want to make sure that that stays white, so I'm not going to get that wet. And it'll be interesting to see how this Saunders Waterford does. And we can paint right over that eye. I've masked out the important things, so we are safe there. And you want to make your clear water go far enough away from the area you're going to paint. We're going to be painting in here and here, but I get it wet all the way over to here so I don't get any weird hard edges. So I'm just going to get parts of his nose wet, and then this is a very white area, so I'm going to always keep that perfectly dry. And the paint probably won't get over this far, but I'm getting it wet just to ensure that we don't get weird hard edges when we paint this area and a little bit of the neck to make them merge. And then the ear, and I'm carefully painting around this white highlight that I forgot to mask all the way down, so I'm going to try to remember to just paint around that. And I think we want some of this red to bleed into the background with that pretty bleeding dreamy look. So we'll try that. So I'm getting all this wet. I'm going, here's the boundary of the ear. I'm going right across it with my water, aren't I? Right across this whole line here. We'll try to keep it soft. Can we do it? And then, of course, you want to get the background wet up and around his ear so that we don't get hard edges. Okay? And I'm going to put extra water over here just because this area is not going to be important, and I want to make sure it does not dry. And our recent conversation on Patreon really, I think something clicked with me with what you guys really like, which is realism with a bit of looseness. And I like that too. But I want to try to focus on more tutorials like that. And like those bunnies, I agree. Those were great. And also, I want to do more beginner stuff, which I'm horrible at doing because I don't know what beginners need. So if y'all are beginners, please message me with ideas of what you would like as a beginner to paint. Okay, I think we got that wet enough. Now, I should have mixed, you know what? I should have mixed my colors first, but that's okay. We'll let all this soak in. We might have to pre-wet. We might have to wet it again, but I'm going to get, this is my burnt sienna over here. I'm going to get it wet and activated by just scrubbing at it. So I am going to cheat, quote unquote, and use burnt sienna in this painting because there's so much burnt sienna in this pretty little fawn. And so I'm going to squeeze all that out into my palette and then just squeeze out I'm going to squeeze out the tea consistency paint too. Clean my brush in my dirty water jar. Bounce it on the bottom to really get it clean, and then go in and activate my yellow. And my yellow has a little bit of red in it, so that's okay. I'm gonna get some clean yellow too. But I don't really need a lot of clean yellow in this painting at all. There's no pure yellow. It's all got a little bit of red and blue mixed into it. So I just want to get this soft and activated. All right, and clean my brush. This is why I like to put squeeze tube paints into my palette, let them dry, and then I just activate what I need. If you paint from tube paint that's just freshly squeezed, you'll get clumps on your brush and so much paint gets wasted that way, I think. Let's see, what do we want? Cobalt or ultramarine blue? Probably ultramarine blue, so we can get these darks. And you know what, actually, Windsor Violet would make beautiful darks mixed with burnt sienna. I think we'll do that. But ooh, this Windsor Violet's strong. It doesn't need a lot of activating, that's for sure. So we'll just give it a little, just put the excess in that little extra well over there. And get that nice and soft. It's kind of like creme naphthalene red. You really don't need to activate it much because it is hip-hoppity, ready to go. All right, so we've got our colors activated. Let's make sure everything's still fairly wet. There's animals outside my house making weird noises, so I just had to, we could even scrumble that edge so it doesn't have a weird hard edge. And see my paper is already starting to buckle, which means the water has absorbed in, so that's a good thing, I think, to get these nice soft edges. And we'll re-wet everything. We'll see how this Saunders Waterford sizing holds up to getting a lot of water on it. Painting carefully around this white highlight that comes down the area. You might want to mask that. I masked down to here, but I should have brought my masking down further for this little white highlight. Okay, now, oh, you know what else we need to use is some permanent green light. Ooh, that's pretty, right? Yeah, we'll do that. That'll be really pretty. I'm gonna get my ultramarine blue moist just so it's ready to go if we want it. Also my cobalt. All right, I think what I'll do first is this background because it is lighter. Sorry, I got some water on my picture. So that's just yellow and some blue and some permanent green light. Tea consistency, very light. We want this to really be light, and we want to do this in one wash to keep it fresh. So we're going to do a lot of different colors, all in the same family, fairly quickly here. I'm going to put plenty of blue back in there though. And some orange too. So let's get that in. This is kind of a hard background because it's got a lot of yellow in it. And oh, you know what? Let's do some permanent green. I mean some Windsor green gold. That'll be really pretty. That's very true to what's in the background already. Put a few strokes of the that's pretty. Such a pretty combination, the cobalt blue and the Windsor green gold and the Holbein Oriole and the permanent green light. Just a few swishes, really wet, and then it gets really light up here, which is pretty. Almost it's like the field behind the fawn is glowing, and I like that. Let's put a little touch of some burnt sienna. Don't overdo it because burnt sienna is granulating, and an earth color so it'll dry and it will not look like this bright orange. But okay, now while this is still wet and this boundary is still wet, we're going to go in. If it's puddling, you want to wait. There's a puddle, there's actually a river going. So let's just take this easy. Actually, while that's setting up, let's do the underpainting of that red in that ear. Oh, we want to keep some of this pure red. Just always red. So, but not too much. So now I'm going to go in with a brush full of cream consistency, burnt sienna. And then there's these hairs you want to paint negatively around, okay? And we'll probably go in later and do some negative painting. Now I'm adding some ultramarine blue to my brush to get it darker. And this is going to dry a lot. I like how this is bleeding out too. And this is really wet, so I'm going to let that, I don't want it to get too soft, I don't think. Well, maybe, I don't know. Let's get really, really thick cream consistency on our brush so we can have some control. This is really, really, really thick paint I'm getting. Let's get some of that Windsor violet. It's really, really thick. I'm just rubbing my damp brush directly on the dried paint that has been pre-moistened. So it's really thick cream consistency I'm getting. And remember, whenever you make a brush stroke and you lift your brush, that's where the color is going to explode. So right here, I want to make a brush stroke like this and then kind of move in before I lift up where I don't mind it exploding. I don't want it to explode here. So like this. I'm going to draw this this line here and then move my brush maybe into here where I can lift up and it can explode out to its delight, but I don't want it to explode here. Okay. Easy to forget to do that. That's one way to control your paint when you're painting wet in wet, is pay attention where you lift your brush up. I don't mind getting some cauliflowers in this area, and I really want some very darks here. And See, I'm lifting up and it's allowing it to explode out to make little hair textures possibly. This is a good place to do a few little cauliflowers before it dries. Getting some very nice edges here. I'm going to get some pure burnt sienna for this area. Now, I'm going to get just a tiny little bit of water in my size 1 silver black velvet script brush and just dip the tip in. And where these hairs are, let's see if we can cauliflower them out into this area. Let's see that cauliflower forming? Because this is in cauliflower stage, so this is a good time to do it. And then maybe right here, we can get some cauliflowers that make it look like furry bits in the ear. If it doesn't work, it's okay, but at least we tried. And I'm seeing a spot here form on its own, so I'm going to help it and add one little dot and one dot and then lift up. Okay, now this is still a nice moist edge, so we can get a soft edge here. So I've got very dark paint in my brush, so I'm going to clean out a little bit of that. I'm going to put that puddle over there because there's a lot of paint in that, so maybe I can use it later. And then I'm going to get some pure burnt sienna on my brush. I don't mind mixing it with a little bit of this gray that was in my brush earlier here, but I'm getting cream consistency paint in my brush. I'm going to paint this hopefully dark enough so it stays soft and I don't have to redo it. Test my moisture level here. And carefully paint around some of these structures. We'll go back in some of these areas. See, oh, it's getting a nice see, this is all beautifully soft. So we can get some really, I love working on paper that's right at this stage and get so many beautiful soft. But I don't want to get too much. And then I want to paint carefully around this white eyelid. I want to keep as light as possible until I'm ready for it not to be light. So I'm going to bring that up and over. This is nice. And let's go in with a second sweep and darken some of this with a little bit more of this nice thick blue and burnt sienna here, because this up in here gets really dark. And this is getting dry. If I think I got too much water on my brush, I just push it onto mine, because I just touched my brush into this wet puddle on my palette, so I don't want any extra water in my brush. I just want cream consistency paint. Look at that ear. Ooh, child. Ooh, look at that. Oh gosh. Yay. Now this is still wet. We can go in and put even dark. And go in with some pure ultramarine blue. And just put in a few little... Look how dry this is. Oh, I do not want to mess that up. Just gorgeous. Put in a few little dark spots. But mostly I want to get more burnt sienna. Just furred out a little more than I would have liked, but I just want it to, I want it to look really fresh more than anything. Okay, I'm gonna get out most of that out of my brush and get some pure. Oops, I don't really want to use that. I'm going to use my dirty water still. It's still clean enough. I can just use that. Oh, when it's buckling like this, this is a perfect time to put just a few sprinkles of water. I'm going to protect this. I don't want sprinkles in here in the background. When you see it buckling, see how much it's buckling? I'm going to push it down to show you how much it's buckled up. Okay? So I'm just going to sprinkle, not too much. It's kind of like salt to get this really soft effect in the background. That ear, oh God, look at that. That is just so pretty. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't because there's only so much control you can have. But we will try to carefully paint around that prettiness. At least I will. Your painting probably will not do the same exact thing, and that is okay. I think this is a good first step. We can let this dry and then work over in here.
All right, thank you so much for joining me for session 2. And in session 3, we'll have a lot of fun working on refining the ears and painting the eye. So I will see you then.